Good evening. I am Frances Beasley, and I am a member of Home Church. And this evening, I want to introduce you to Generation Moravian. So if you're comfortable, as I ask you, will you please self-identify if you were born before 1928? Anyone tonight? Okay. Please say hello to the greatest generation. Again, to your comfort level, raise your hand if you were born between 1928 and 1945. Say hello to the silent generation, or the builder's generation. Raise your hand if you were born between 1946 and 1964. Okay. Take a look around and say hello to the baby boom generation, or the baby boomers. Were you born between 1965 and 1980? Raise your hand. Awesome. Say hello to Generation X, and that would be me. Were you born between 1981 and 1997? Raise your hand and say hello to Generation Y. How about Generation Z? Anyone here born between 1995 and 2010? Our youngest brothers and sisters? From this moment on, I want us to think of ourselves a bit differently than we typically do. Now raise your hand if you're Moravian. Everyone turn to your brother and sister and say, hello, Generation Moravian. This is us, 6 generations of Moravians. We are here, we are today, we are yesterday, and we are tomorrow. We are Generation Moravian. Since 1457, Generation Moravian has lived courageously with brave hearts, navigating the complexities of feuding members and societal pressures, resulting in some very courageous outcomes. Remember the brotherly agreement, now the covenant for Christian living? There are countless stories of courage throughout our Moravian history, as a church and as individuals. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. I love this quote by Marianne Radmacher. It reminds me that courage comes in all forms and that all of us possess some ability to be courageous. I wonder who the church will be when each of us takes one small courageous step out of our comfort zones. See, God speaks to us as individuals, but He calls us together in community. Who will we be when every single one of us really tries to tear down the walls of inequality, discrimination, of hate, of bias? Who will we be when we courageously and wholeheartedly see each other as equals in the sight of the Lord and in our own sights? Who will we be when we don't choose sides of the conversations that divide us, when we open our hearts and listen, truly listen, to seek understanding and not lay blame or see fault? The words on this slide were taken straight from Moravian church websites. Some of you may recognize them as being from your own church's websites. They are beautiful expressions of how we want to be seen by the world and by prospective members. There are no footnotes, no asterisks, no fine print. I wonder who the world will see when we open the doors and see all the people. I wonder who we'll be when we really live as examples of faith, hope, and love. Who will we be when we as individuals begin to recognize that coming as we are doesn't refer to a dress code? That to come as we are is bravely and humbly coming to God every day as we are, spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Quote, to a place where you are accepted, loved, and cared for, regardless of where life has brought you. Again, a sentiment expressed on a local church's website. I wonder who we'll be when we as Moravians courageously challenge ourselves and our neighbors to love each other for who we are, brothers and sisters in the messy middle of becoming who we will be. As Generation Moravian and as our socially defined generations, we pass on the best and worst of ourselves as individuals and as a faith community. I wonder who we'll be when we focus on our commonalities and what brings us together rather than our differences and what separates us. I wonder who we'll be when we embrace the courage it takes to stand up and speak and to sit down and listen. Because what the Moravian Church will be, it is now becoming. As Generation Moravian, I wonder who will be. Thank you.